1.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to People Add Value Experience. We have some terrific guests on today, Carli and Reanna. Yes, I got it right. I met both of them as I was getting some artwork done for my arms, and they own an amazing business called Mercy Tattoo. So I'd like to take a couple of seconds and have them just discuss a little bit about their background, because we're going to discuss that. Then we're going to get into how they decided to open a business, how they utilize their social and marketing skills, and then their customer acquisitions and their repeat customers and so on. And we're really going to dig into the tattoo industry and find out what it's like, not only back in the day to have apprenticeship, but also to be a female in the tattoo industry. So I'll pass it over to y'all, lovely ladies, to give a little bit about your background.
Do you want to go first, or would you like me to go first?
You go ahead.
Okay. My name is Reanna McCormick. I live in Destin, Florida. I've been tattooing for 13 years now, and we own our own tattoo studio in Miramar Beach, Florida. And so far, it's been awesome. I almost cussed. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah, we'll let it free flow.
Okay.
That's fine.
You have a beep button, right?
I do.
Okay.
I don't remember
okay,
which one it is, though. There it is.
Nice.
You might need that a few times.
I'll just have my finger here the whole time. Yeah.
Are you done with your intro?
I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say. We got a lot to go over, so I'll keep it short and sweet for now.
I'm Carli Weddington. I live in Miramar Beach, Florida. Grew up around the area. Reanna and I are sisters.
Whoa.
I'm the oldest. We get asked that a lot. She's the oldest. It's me.
I'm the big sister, but she's the older sister.
Yeah, she's now the big sister, but I'm still the oldest. But yeah, I've been living in the area pretty much our whole lives. This is home. This is where we're probably always going to be. So it was time to put down some business roots here.
Yeah.
Some business roots.
Yes.
That's pretty fascinating. So I know that, from a sense, a lot of people say, oh, wow, I could never do business with my family. So has there been a lot of like conflict, deconflict, resolution, and then going back to a conflict and then having to come to another resolution? Or how does that go? Have you finally gotten to a place where it's like, okay, we're in the comfort zone for a little bit? Was that initial startup a little rough?
Actually, no. I think it was a big concern for our parents. They had seen, my dad or whoever else doing business with family, and it goes downhill. And they just were nervous that was going to happen to Reanna and I. But that really wasn't a concern of mine.
No,
but I don't think it was for you either.
No.
I mean, we're about 4 years apart. So growing up, of course, we would fight a little bit, but really we're best friends. So, and I wouldn't even say we've had a lot of conflict since opening the business. I mean, we know how to communicate with each other really well. I'm probably one of the few people that she'll actually listen to.
That is true.
So,
well, I think because growing up
talk
together, we know how to handle each other.
Mm-hmm.
And because we have that sisterly love, like we don't want to stay in conflict long. You know what I mean? Like we always want to just resolve it.
Right.
And I think that is like a great basis for us working together too, because then the business doesn't suffer from our personal, shit. It's like, let's get back on track. Let's be happy together, and let's make sure everyone that comes into this building is super happy with us.
Right. Well, that's an awesome focus to have, that you're able to understand that at the end of the day, right? That it is about the business, and that if you continue to conflict, then that can actually potentially affect negatively
Oh, for sure.
the business instance. So I'm just curious, Carli, so we know Reanna, tattoo artist, her background discussed, but what about you, your background? Like, I don't know very much about your background.
Well, I did a little bit of college, but I didn't finish. I don't have a degree. I went more of the family life. I got married, have 2 boys. I was a stay-at-home mom, just raising the kids, but now they're older now. They're at school. And kind of the timing just aligned for things going on in Reanna's life and things going on in my life for us to kind of merge and come together to help each other with starting a business. But I was just all family life up until then.
Yeah. Have you found that it's a little like with that lifestyle, right? Because there's like, so for the military and the military wives, right, constantly having to move. And then also, like you said, the family side of the house with having a lot of kids and dealing with all that. Have you found that having that sort of like, I guess I'm going to assume flexibility, right? Because you don't have to physically be present, right, with what you do,
right,
to do that. Is that like, did that allow like, hey, I can continue the family life at the quality and time that I want to do, and then still help accomplish, a partnership for a successful business?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Because I homeschooled. And I was still homeschooling when we started the business. So yeah, it was at home doing that with the kids and doing what I needed to do for Mercy at the same time. Luckily, I could be mobile. We're in the age of working mobily. So,
right.
So that worked out great for me. And it still does now. I can come and go, run errands, be out of town, but still be available for the artist if they need me. So
definitively, what is your title in Mercy Tattoo? Do you have like an official title?
Do I have a title? Manager?
Well, I always tell people like my sister and I own this together. She is an owner. But I use the tattoo term gatekeeper. That's what we've always called this job description in the industry. The person who you have to get through to get to the artist. The person you have to email or call or get on their good side. Otherwise, you ain't getting shit. You know what I mean? So Carli's the gatekeeper. Yeah,
it's super interesting that you said that, like, hey, it's like I'm always about the family support system, because I find it interesting, whether that's a marriage thing or whether that's a business thing or schooling thing. So it's interesting that there was concern, right? Like you said, your dad had some business with some family members that didn't go so well. And then, so how did the family and y'all overcome that? How did y'all get to the next point and say, was it just proof in the pudding? Like, you're like, okay, thanks for your input, but we're going to start anyways and just go forward. And now you're successful and you're like, okay, yeah, we did it. Or...
Oh yeah, pretty much. We were like we appreciate the concern and everything, and we get where this is coming from, but we're kind of going to do it anyways. You know what I mean? And like with any business venture, I think that there's going to be problems, but it's like, we're not going to let the fear of, oh, what if something happens, stop us from doing this. You know what I mean? If something happens, we'll figure it out as we go. Yeah. But we knew like starting that there wasn't going to be this huge fallout and our family was going to see us on Judge Judy, like fighting over the bit. You know what I mean? Like we knew it was never going to get to that point. Like if anything, it's just, well, I disagree with you. You know what I mean?
Right.
On to the next. And really that's how we are. It's like, well, I don't see it that way. All right, cool.
So how long ago did this actually like start to come to fruition? How long ago?
I'd say 2019. It's when the wheels started turning.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that conversation take place? Like, where were y'all? Were you on the phone? You just like eating dinner together somewhere?
I think it's always something that had been brought up. Like, one day, I really wasn't involved in it, but yet. But she would say like, one day I'll have my own studio. I'd love to be my own boss. Just, I think a lot of people who work for someone else has that goal. So it would be something that would be brought up. But then it was just kind of like stars aligning,
Yeah. In 2019, I actually was in another like kind of unhealthy work environment again. And I was getting close to 30 years old. And it was like, man, like I just can't find the right place for me.
Right.
And if I did things my way, this is how I would do it. And this is what I would do. And this is what I wouldn't do. And you know what I mean? And I think... probably because of my age, I really was ready to settle down. I think right after I learned how to tattoo, my dad was very pushy to like, American dream, be your own boss. And one day and I'm like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm too young. I don't want to have to take work home. I love just like coming in, doing my job and leaving. But, how long had I been tattooing by 2019? A while, long enough that I was just like, I can't keep hunting for the right situation. I think I'm going to have to create it for myself.
Yeah.
And Carli's husband, Josh, is actually a realtor.
Oh, wow.
And he really backed me in this idea as well and started kind of looking at places for us to have a studio in the area that we were looking for. And, everybody was just kind of chipping in. Our parents were giving us ideas. Josh was looking at property. Carli's coming up with ideas. I'm making a list of things. And it's like she said, I mean, it really was like the perfect timing for everyone. Everything just aligned so perfect. It seemed like
so
we're meant to do this.
The seed was planted a long time ago, but now like it was just sort of the environment with the water and the sun, and then it started to peak up, and you're like, boom, this is the time.
Right.
Yeah. And so how hard was it to convince Carli to jump on board with you?
Oh, not at all. I think like even in the beginning of just like planning, like how would we do this and how we would do that? And it's like, well, Carli, are you busy? Would you be interested? And she's like, I mean, I'm really busy, but yeah, let's, It really was one of those things that we just kind of made it up as we went. Like everyone just agreed and just, we'll find a way to make it work. Right. And we're still doing that to this day. I mean, we're still just, because these things don't come with instruction manuals. You know what I mean? People always say it's so hard to own your own business. And you're like, I know, but you don't know until you're doing it. And you get in there and you just, every day you just learn and make improvements. And
I think they made a song, Every Day I'm Hustling, right? That's something like that. That's basically, so it's funny. I've had some other entrepreneurs on and they say the same thing, right? It's literally year by year, if not month by month, because there's seasonal trends and all those. I mean, so it could be typically week by week, month by month. So it's interesting to hear, right? So I think like every industry goes through that, right? There's no like set in stone, this, whatever, because the demographic, the environment, whatever else is just so different where you're at. And then, like you said, real estate based. So is it like an entire building? Is it part of a building? All these things come into play, right? So, and then the spacing, do I want a big venue space or do I want something smaller? All of that stuff comes into play. Because then it would be really interesting if you want to have, like, I would consider it a boutique, right? Like you guys have a boutique. It's not like a run of the mill, just come in whatever place. Is like you get this big place, but then you have like 4 people in this big place. And you're like, oh shoot, how are we going to fill the rest of the space, right? It's like trying to compensate or like what do I do to make that happen? I think the size of your current location is fantastic.
It's tiny, but it's home. We make it work. We definitely didn't want to bite off more than we could chew in the beginning. And I'm glad that we didn't because we opened right before a pandemic. But a small, private, very personal studio is what we were going for. I mean, I think both of us have dreams of hopefully expanding one day, having a little bit more room, but it's so good the way it is now. It's just, keep having goals. I think that's the key. And having a successful business is not letting yourself like plateau. Is to constantly just, one day we're going to have this, one day we're going to have apparel, one day we're going to have piercing, one day, you know what I mean? It's just keep dreaming, keep reaching.
Still waiting on the shirt. So, hey, it's very interesting because I do like one of the things I always judge a good business off of is the bathrooms. And you're like one of the very few bathrooms I'm like, if I really needed to go number 2, I'd feel comfortable in here.
I love our bathroom.
I wouldn't have to like and then put something down and like, oh my God, I have to like block the door with my foot. Like it's a very clean. There's some funny little joke things on the wall.
A
lot of like, I mean, what was there? I think there's like lotion, cologne, like you have a nice little shelf of
feminine products, some mints in there. Like,
mints,
my gosh, every single bathroom and every single tattoo shop I've ever worked at or been in, I always hated it. It gave me the creeps, like the crack at the door is huge or like it's
is that
really
someone's whole foot coming underneath?
Yeah. I mean, just like I always hated tattoo bathrooms and I'm like, when I have a place of my own, I'm going to have the nicest, prettiest, most inviting bathroom of all time. And I get compliments on the bathroom a lot.
Because sometimes people are there for a long time.
Yeah.
Like a legit long time. And so like, it's nice to have, hey, I need to, and you're like, oh man, is this going to be one of those, I got to pinch my nose. And no, you're like, oh man, this is actually quite nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. You said that. There's been a few people now who's like, I got to see the bathroom first. Before I book an appointment with this place.
They've like heard that the bathroom's nice. I even had a client one time actually during a consultation asked to use the restroom. She came back out. We finished setting up her appointment. When she came in for her tattoo, she actually told me that she had an uncle that was in the tattoo industry. He lived out on the West Coast, but she was asking his advice on how to pick an artist, how to pick a shop. And he said, check the bathroom. He said, if they take care of their bathroom, they're taking care
Wow.
of their station. And
Yeah.
she's
Wow.
like, I didn't even have to use the bathroom. I just went
Legit?
to check it. And she was like, it
Wow.
was so nice.
That's
I'm
crazy.
Like,
no way.
Oh, yeah.
How funny. Okay. I'm glad I'm not the only person. It's a whole industry thing. Okay,
Yes.
good. Fantastic. So Reanna.
Yes.
Okay.
You're nailing it. You're getting it.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. So how did you get into tattooing? Like what sparked the idea of like, hey, I want to become a tattoo artist?
So I had always been an artist from the time I was a little kid, whether I was drawing, sculpting clay, painting, whatever, always artsy fartsy. So obviously I carried that into college. At first I started college trying to learn how to do graphic design. I did one semester of that and I absolutely hated it. I hated sitting at a computer all day. I did not feel creative at all. So I switched my major to fine arts. That was more hands-on, loved it. But to finish my degree in that, they told me I would have to, move to a major university, invest a lot more money and time. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this piece of paper when I'm done? And probably around college is when I started, I was starting to get tattooed, and being the artist in my group of friends, I was drawing stuff for them. I had drawn designs for our parents. And so probably towards the end of college with me thinking like, how can I be an artist and make a living?
All right.
I wonder if I could actually do the finished product of this. I've been drawing these tattoos. It seems like a cool thing to do. So I really started picking the brain of the girl that was doing my tattoos at the time. And I mean, I get it now that I'm a tattoo artist. People ask you all the time, like, how do you do this? Seems like a cool thing. Maybe I could do it. And it's like, yeah, fuck off. I'm not telling you shit,
Right.
But she entertained me, and I probably bugged her for about a year or two. And finally, I just showed up at her shop one night and was like, please teach me. This is what I want to do. Please take me under your wing. And she was like, you know what? You got some skill. Let's give it a shot. And the rest is history.
Wow. It's great because that was a great transition. Because I do want to ask about apprenticeship and like in the tattoo industry. So did I miss anything on the background? You guys good on the background?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So yeah, I'd really like to, I'm very curious about the apprenticeship because I know that's sort of depending on who you talk to, right? The trend is I'm not gonna say going away, but people are sort of jumping into it without necessarily understanding the importance and what it is, or unless you watch, like one of the old Ink Masters or something. Those kind of shows still had that. I forgot what was this guy's name? Yogi? I can't remember the one dude's name. It was like, I don't remember his name. I can't remember.
I think I know who you're trying to talk about. Did he have a shaved head? He's like younger. No.
He was, it was like, I want to say, it felt like it was like 3 seasons this guy was an apprentice, man. I mean, it was cleaning in the shop the whole time, never really, and then they're like, here's an orange, and like that.
You're like, is he an apprentice or is he a slave?
I'm just saying.
Poor guy.
I'm just saying. Yeah. But yeah, so tell us about your experience. So was this the same lady that you became an apprentice under, the lady that you're referring to, or no?
Yes. So all apprenticeships are different, and apprenticeships back in the day when I had mine are even very different than what they are now. My experience, so I went, her name was Sandy Dixon. That was my mentor. I went to her. It was a family-owned shop. Her parents owned the shop, so I had to have a sit-down with them. I brought my portfolio from college, let them see, that I could draw and things like that, sit down, and they kind of decide if they're going to let you into their house and pretty much end up training their competition. That's why it's so hard to get an apprenticeship, is because you're giving these people knowledge that they're more than likely going to take somewhere else, because that's just the nature of the beast, is to move on and grow and potentially have your own place one day. So it's very hard to get someone interested in you in the beginning. But like I said, I think I had a pretty strong artistic background, so that caught their eye, and I was very polite and very eager, which you have to be. You can't go in there and be like, so I don't know anything about this, but I want to specialize in this by year 2. Like, you can't walk into an apprenticeship and call the shots. Mm-hmm. You have to do whatever is required of you. So pretty much it's just shadowing in the beginning, watching your mentor a lot, learning cross-contamination, learning how to clean, learning your equipment. I had to learn how to build machines, take them apart, how to fix them. I had to learn needles, how they work, inks, how they work. And then they finally get you started, working on some people. And it's funny because people ask you in the beginning, what do you practice on? Oh, maybe a grapefruit, if you're lucky, maybe some fake skin if you really got some money, which as an apprentice you don't, because you're paying for the information that you're learning and you're in the shop pretty much working for free. I mean, you're paying them to work for them.
Did you have to do any of that, like take out the garbage, clean the shop, clean the stations and all that?
Absolutely. I had to learn how to answer the phone, work the front, take the trash out, mop, like I said, anything they ask of you, you do it. You do it.
So I'm very curious because I know Dave, who did my tattoos, he's very big into like skincare and like health. And so at what point do you actually have to, like, because you learn all of it, right? You're sitting in doing all the job training and apprenticeship. At what point do you actually have to go like take a test or whatever to get certified? Is that I'm assuming before, right? You jump on people or whatever. And is that difficult to do to go actually take that test?
It's more a punishment of your time than it is difficult. Actually, they didn't require tattoo artists to be licensed when I first started tattooing. It was probably about 3 years in. And at the time you would go to the health department and it's about a 3-hour course where they teach you cross-contamination, things like that. What to look out for on skin infections versus eczema versus, allergic reaction, just, a rundown of that. Then you take a test at the end. I think you only have to make like a 75 to pass it.
Everyone now is like, I don't know.
I think it's really, really low. Thank God. But you pass the course, you get your license. And in the state of Florida, you just have to send in some money every year to renew your license. You don't have to retake the test or anything.
Yeah.
But you do, your shop gets inspected by the health department every single year. And they make sure that, you guys are keeping proper records, that you have the right disinfectants in the shop, that you're offering aftercare, like all that type of stuff.
Was there any, I'm always curious, was there any like surprises from the medical side? So like you're going through all this training and you're learning about the cross-contamination or whatever else, which I mean, assumingly you're like, okay, don't like touch something and then touch open skin with the wound. But was there anything else you felt I don't know, like, oh, that's interesting or surprised about when you're going through that training?
You would be surprised at how much shit you need to touch that you can't. Like you think it's really easy at first, but you'll go through 10 pairs of gloves sometimes during one tattoo. Cause it's like, I already gloved up. Now I got to take it off because I need to touch this, or now I need to go grab that. And it's just like, dang it. But it is during the training. I've always been a little bit of I don't want to say a germaphobe, but neat freak. But once I took that course, I'm definitely extremely disgusted by human beings. I definitely my germophobia has gone up. Like I can't even watch movies now and see people like get sprayed in the face with blood without being like AIDS.
So Carli, so you know this because you end up having to buy all the disinfectants and the paper towels and the saran wrap and all that stuff that goes with the shop, right? From a logistics standpoint.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. Lots of paper towels.
Oh my gosh.
So many paper towels.
So many paper towels. I mean, if anything were ever happened, at least you have like a back stock of.
We need to buy stock in paper towels.
We do.
We go through them so much.
Bounty's listening. Reach out. We
sponsor us, Bounty.
Bounty. Yeah. So when you're going through the apprenticeship, how long did that take to actually have to go through the apprenticeship portion?
Every apprenticeship is different. I think a lot of it depends on the apprentice themselves and how quickly they pick things up. Mine was actually extremely fast. I was only an apprentice for about 6 months before they let me off the leash and had me on paying clients. I think that was also because we were short-staffed at the time, and it was kind of one of those like sink or swim situations. Mm-hmm. Like, well, we need a tattoo artist, so either you're going to learn how to do this or you're going to die. But I would say on average, most apprenticeships last anywhere between like a year to 2 years.
Wow.
On average.
And this is like, so you're not making money at that time, right?
During your apprenticeship?
Yeah.
No.
And in fact, you're paying
the shop
so it's like college,
to be there,
right?
and take their trash out. And yeah, exactly. And that's what's so frustrating nowadays with apprenticeships is kids seem so much more privileged, and they kind of, they want this apprenticeship, then they come in and they're like, so what's the hourly pay? And it's like, I'm not paying you shit. I'm paying you with knowledge. Like I'm about to give you a career, right. Do you go to your professors in college and say, so what are you going to pay me for the day?
Right. I mean, right. It's art, but it's almost like a trade, like carpentry or something else, right?
Absolutely.
Like
Yes.
you can go to classes all day long, but until you're like with somebody and, back in the day, right. A lot of people, carpentry, electrician, all of those things, right? Same boat. I mean, I think now like quote unquote, an internship, you get something, right? Just depending on the company or business or industry that you're in. But I mean, it makes sense to me is like, I'm going to a trade school, right? Like I want to pay to go to a trade school to learn. But not only that, but you're getting like one-on-one attention, which is even better than going to a class because then there's like, 13, 20, 50, 60 people or whatever in the class. So, I mean, I think that's pretty important. It's interesting to hear that that's not like something that's, done any longer or at least appreciated from people nowadays.
Yeah.
And tattooing to me is just so impressive because you can be very talented in other mediums, painting, different kinds of drawing, but tattooing is just a whole other beast.
It really
you could
is.
have someone who's extremely talented at drawing, but when it comes to putting it on skin, it's totally different.
Yeah, I think everyone, when you're learning something new, it's hard. But I definitely had a couple points in my apprenticeship where, you just go home crying because you're like, I'm a piece of shit. Like that tattoo was horrible. I've made a huge mistake. Like maybe I'm not cut out for this, but I think that's probably most careers that are challenging. You know what I mean? You're just like, man, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. Cause you go into it like I can draw, I'm an artist. Like it shouldn't take any time. And then you're like, there's a reason why these people get paid so much money because not everybody can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we appreciate right on the receiving end because someone could be a fantastic artist, but if they don't know how to tattoo, you could literally just scar someone, you know what I mean? Because, depending on the depth of the needle and the speed and all, there's a lot to take into consideration. So during your apprenticeship, I'm curious because I think you had some, but like, do you have like 2 stories at least from your apprenticeship? Can you share any?
Two stories? What kind of stories do you mind?
I think she's got lots of stories.
So I think that's like probably like a vital time, right? It's traumatic in a good and bad way of some of the things that happened during that time period, right? Because that's sort of the new thing and you're working with people and it's like you're super stressed out and you're like, oh gosh. So like, I guess, what was, let's say one happy or one good and one interesting, maybe not negative, but on the interesting side. So we'll start with the interesting side and then we'll move to the good side. So what was like an interesting experience during your apprenticeship that you had? Like more on the dark side.
More on the dark side and an interesting experience. Not to get too dark.
You asked.
You did ask.
Yeah,
this is pretty fucking dark, Brian.
Sure.
Okay. I was very young when I started my apprenticeship. I was only 20 years old. Any work experience I had was in retail, which usually, you're taught that the customer is always right and just smile and go along with it. So I actually, unfortunately, had my apprenticeship in a shop where there was an older man who ended up being pretty inappropriate with me. And he never did anything physical, but there was a lot of verbal abuse there. And so that was very new to me. But I'm kind of glad that it happened as early as it did in the way that it did, because it really readjusted me to be able to survive in that industry. Like some people are going to be terrible. Some people are going to be creeps. Some people are going to be, you know what I mean? But you cannot let them push you around. You have got to, stand up for yourself because nobody else will. There is no HR in the tattoo industry. There is, you know what I mean? So that's kind of a darker, kind of sad, like shitty part of the apprenticeship that I think, unfortunately, might have been very common, especially for females. You know what I mean? You kind of get abused a little, ever so slightly, maybe because they're just trying to test to see how strong you are, what your boundaries are. But it happens in real life too.
Yep.
You just got to check people. You just got to be like, you know what? This is the line. Don't cross it.
Yeah.
But you got to be tough too. When you go into a male dominated industry and an industry that's a little rough around the edges, it's got some characters. You got to put your big girl panties on and brace yourself, because it's not always going to be easy. People aren't always going to be on your side,
right,
or have your best interest. But let's see. Let's think of a happy memory. Let's see if I can think of a happy memory where I wasn't crying during my apprenticeship. No, I had a really, really good relationship with my mentor, and I got really lucky with her. You know, I didn't get stuck doing any crappy work like walking her dogs or washing her car. The old school apprenticeships were kind of like that. Go get my food, go run my errands. Anything she made me do was always to teach me something about tattooing. And so she really kept an eye out for me and was very patient with me. So I was very, very fortunate to be able to shadow her. And we're actually still friends to this day.
Wow.
I actually just tattooed her, last week?
No way, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
So me and her are still very, very close. So I'm fortunate that I got a really great friendship out of my apprenticeship. I was able to stay close with my mentor.
Do you know of any tattoo artists in the industry like that you're familiar with that will still do or give an apprenticeship to someone?
Oh, I think a lot of us are pretty burnout. Like I said, this generation coming up is, they're kind of wanting to skip to the end. You know, everybody wants to learn how to tattoo, immediately become a specialist, become a big deal on TikTok, and then retire in 5 years. And it's like, you know, it requires so much more than that. I've always said to like be really good at tattooing, you have to love it. You have to be in love with it. You can't just like tattooing. It can't be your hobby or the way you pick. I mean, you have to be in love with tattooing for it to love you back.
Yeah. So so I know you said no, but there's always a but. So like, what would somebody have to do? Like maybe not you, right? But like people, you know, like what would they have to do to get an apprenticeship? Like how could they prove themselves to an artist now that has that mentality that's like, I'm burnt out, I don't want to deal with this. Like like the 98 people that came before you say this stuff, and then I've seen this, I've witnessed it. Some other people may have taken on people that had that same experience, that it's like, I tried, and then they just want to jump to the end. So how would somebody that's very interested and said, you know, like, I truly want to learn this and I love it, like, and I want an apprenticeship, like, I don't want to jump to the end, I want an apprenticeship, like, what would they have to do or say to actually like prove that out to the artist with that kind of mentality?
For me, I would have to see someone that is very adamant, somebody who's just so hungry that they won't stop asking me. I mean, that they don't care if they're about to annoy me. They will not stop asking. Like that would show a lot, because most people, I mean, we've had people walk into the shop that we've never tattooed them. We don't know who they are. They probably don't know who we are, but they're just popping in going, are you guys taking apprentices? No. Okay. And they leave. You're not hungry. You know what I mean? You haven't done your research. If someone came in and they were like, you know, I follow you online, I've seen your work, I want to learn how to tattoo like you. Here's what I'm capable of. Here are my sketches or whatever. Will you take me? No. If you came back next week, will you take me now? No. If you kept asking for 2 months, I'd probably be like, let me maybe have a sit down with this person. You know what I mean? And I think it's the hunger, because like I said, you have to love it to be good at it. You can't just be interested in it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's interesting. Yeah. Persistence, I think in a lot of industries makes a big difference, you know, like, I mean, that could be just mentorship in general, not even apprenticeship, right? A lot of people are like, hey, mentor me. And then they just give up if they have the first no, or if they just never get a hold of somebody like via email or social media. I mean, there's other methods, right? Like, I mean, I'm not saying like stalk somebody, but I'm saying there's other methods to like, to be able to be like, hey, listen, I really appreciate what you do. And I really like, like, here's my path that I'm giving myself. Here's the milestones I'm at now. Here's where I want to go. Because there's a lot of companies that will offer like mentorship, right? Like for instance, if somebody wants to become, you know, like not a CEO, but maybe like a CFO or something, like, hey, I just want to be in the C-suite. I love numbers. I love accounting. Like, how do I become like a famous CFO? And they look up somebody on LinkedIn and they try to start a conversation, or they're, you know, write some handwritten letters, by the way. That's what I was waiting for. Handwritten letters. Like, some people appreciate that, like, because that is such a lost art. Like, no one does that anymore. And like, if you get something, and also, so in my head, I was like, man, what would I do? I'd be like, hey, can I just like clean your shop? Like, let me show you, can I clean your shop for like however long until it takes? And then maybe we can have a conversation or something, right? Because there's that acts of service, if you will, right? Love language. Like, it's like, hey, show me. Like, show me you want this, right? Like, show me.
And that's the thing, because talk is cheap. Talk is cheap everywhere these days, but talk is especially cheap in the tattoo industry. It's like, show me. Show me you want it. Show me that, you know, this is really what you want to do, and show me that you're going to be worth this investment, because it's also hard on your mentor, you know, to have to slow down, to explain everything to you all day, to make room for you to be in their station, to, you know what I mean? It's it's taxing on the mentor as well.
Yeah. So Carli, as the big little sister, when she's going through the apprenticeship, did you hear any of these stories and experiences that she was having during this time?
I did. Yeah. I think I mostly heard the crazy the tattoos that people would want, or wanting their butts tattooed for spring break and stuff like that. So yeah, she had to deal with that and get used to like, oh yeah, that's normal.
Yeah.
Did like 3 butt tattoos today. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Oh yeah, spring break, man.
Give me, what was it? Give me 3 cherries that look like hearts. Oh God, that's crazy.
I've done all kinds of butt tattoos during spring break, man. It's crazy. It's funny because I haven't done a butt tattoo in a really long time, probably because of the type of studio we've created for ourselves.
Well, yeah, we
like semi-retired from ass tattoos, but man, it was
you totally opened the door, by the way. You know that, right?
It was my bread and butter back in the day, though. Like when you're just now learning and you're a pretty young girl and it's spring break and a shop that's open from noon to midnight, you better start shaving some butt cheeks.
Or the other artists don't want to do it. They're like, oh yeah, The Apprentice, you have to do it. Yep.
Fantastic. So that's a good lead in, because I do want to talk a little bit about sort of like the places you've worked before you worked, because in your own company, your own place, because a lot of people that are entrepreneurs have done that, right? They get to the point. My buddy Logan, same boy, he's working somewhere and either they get let go or they're about to get let go, or their leadership is just like so awful, it's toxic, and they're like, I could do better, right? And whether that's something that ends up evolving over time to a different industry, by chance or anything like that. But that's what happens. It's just like, I think I can do better. Like, I think I can do better, and I'm willing to take that risk, which is the biggest thing, is accepting that risk. A lot of people won't do it because they're like, I can't. I don't know if I'm going to get the money. I don't know if I have that money to invest. I don't know if I have the support. That's going to be very difficult to me. So after the apprenticeship, what was like your first job, like right after that, your official job?
So I actually stayed at the shop that I learned at for about 5 years. I stayed there a very long time. So that was my first job, first work experience in the tattoo industry. It was, like I said, a family-owned business, which after 5 years got pretty hard. I kind of reached a point where I couldn't grow past it. I knew one day I would never be given the keys to the kingdom. There's no chance for a management position there. They, right. They had their family. So I ended up moving to Orlando, and I got a job working for Todd Grant at Granted Inc. in Castleberry. And it was a small private studio, which is what I wanted. I was a little burnout on the tourist and seasonal work and things like that. I really wanted to go somewhere quiet where I could build a clientele and kind of find out what I was really good at and become a specialist in something. And so he took me in. It was very hard moving to a new city where no one knows you, no type of clientele at all, in a private studio that doesn't get a lot of walk-in traffic. He was a fantastic guy to work for. We're still very close. He's like a big brother to me. Awesome. But I found it hard to make enough money in Castleberry to support not only the bills that I needed, but to have fun too in a city like that. So I ended up moving back home, and I was working in Fort Walton. I was back, in a tourist shop, long hours, take whatever comes in the door, not a lot of choice in what I got to do or how I kind of represented myself.
How long were you in the private studio?
I was in Orlando for 2 years.
2 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then did you find any additional skill sets there? Like now that you've moved out of the mom and pop shop and you're in a private studio, did anything else, like as an artist, did you start, was there other things that you hadn't done because of the environment that you now moved into that you were doing? Not like butt tattoos, but like any other kind of like shading or like any other kind of skills that you had because clients were, private, and maybe they're paying a little bit more, or they're willing to come back and repeat to do like bigger tattoos. Was there anything that you learned in the private studio?
There wasn't so much like new techniques that I really picked up, as much as I was allowed to be given the space to really focus on what I was wanting to do. It's really where I feel like my line work got so much stronger and more consistent. And I was able to experiment with like dot work, pointillism, sacred geometry, the things that I was really wanting to do instead of being forced to do every single thing that walked through the door, no matter what. So I really think I found my happiness and my style while I was in Orlando. That's what I took from there. And I also got to experiment with a lot of different types of equipment. Yeah, Todd Todd loves his toys. So while I was working at Granite Ink, he definitely encouraged me to try, drawing on a tablet for the first time and trying my first rotary machine, which is like the pin shaped tattoo machines that we use today that are a bit more quiet and stuff. And, using good cameras to take photos of my work and things like that. So he kind of helped me learn how to also present myself as more of a professional artist, to invest in good equipment that, I have a nice looking portfolio because I'm using a good camera. And my stencils are turning out better because I'm drawing on a tablet. I'm not using paper and pencil anymore, things like that. So I definitely picked up a lot in Orlando that I needed to know years earlier. But
I forgot to ask, because I wanted to do this at each place you worked, but what's the craziest tattoo you had to do during your apprenticeship? And then the craziest tattoo you did at Todd's place?
Craziest tattoo during my apprenticeship? Man.
Was it on a butt cheek?
That was so long ago. I can't remember just one, but yes, it's mostly the butt tattoos. That was a very big thing during spring break back in the beginning of my career. And I've done everything from an astronaut to the dinosaur on the box of macaroni and cheese. I did that on a girl's butt. I've done hotel room numbers, YOLO. What are some other good ones?
That was
really?
Yeah. When that was
my best butt tattoo. I just remembered. Okay. I had two guys come in and one wanted BR and the other one wanted OS. So when they were cheek to cheek, it said bros, but there was quite a height difference between them. And so I brought them into my room and I was like, you guys are going to have to drop trowel and get cheek to cheek for me to line these up. And then they started acting all weird, like, and I'm like, do you want me to tattoo through your shorts? Like, what did y'all think was going to happen? I'm like popping my gloves on. And so that was a really good one from my early career at Granted.
Hold on, wait, hold on. So was it off? Was like one on like high butt cheek and the other was like middle butt cheek? Like how did that?
Yeah, so when they were together, it lined up. But one guy's, it was like, do you guys remember Jimmy Fallon and what was the other guy's name from Saturday Night Live? And they used to wear a shirt that when they stood together, a straight line went through them, but it was like real high on the one guy and low on Jimmy Fallon. Oh yeah, it definitely was like that.
Sorry, that's just so funny. Okay, so sorry, go ahead. At Granted, yes.
At Granted, most memorable tattoo. Oh, God. So it's never a good idea when a male calls the shop and asks if you have a female artist. Red flag number one. So we had a guy call, asked if we had a female artist. Of course, the guys that I work with, which were some big scary dudes, were like, you got nothing to worry about. Yeah, we got a girl here. And I'm like, oh, God, this is not going to be good. Guy shows up and he wanted a purple pinnacle right here on his face, like dead center of his cheek, right under his eyeball. And I'm like,
Did you say
okay.
A pinnacle?
Yes. So, the circle that's got like a star in it, like the witchcraft little pinnacle.
Yeah,
okay. One right there, center of his face in purple. So I get him in my room and I'm trying to put the stencil on and get him ready. And he's just staring not blinking, just staring. And I'm trying not to make eye contact, though I can feel his eyes on me. And I lay him down, I do the tattoo, and the whole time he's just staring and staring. And I'm like, I cannot get this thing done with fast enough. So I finally get it over with. And it was funny because I finally got him out of the shop. And when he was leaving, he was like, all right, thanks for everything. Bye, boo. And the second the door shut, I was like, here it comes. Freak, Marvin, and Todd, all three of them. Hey, bye, boo. Oh, boo, you did such a good job, boo. Thanks, boo. Oh, God, I heard that forever. And it gets better because this guy left his phone charger in my booth and he ended up having to come back to the shop like 10 minutes later to get it. And I was so freaked out by him that I hid in the back. Or I hid in somebody's room. I think I hid in Marvin's room. I was just like, tell him I died. Like I was just hiding in another artist's booth. Like, no. I just didn't want him to like stare at me again.
It's funny because like I thought my train of thought was like, guy, hey girl. I thought it was going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then you just say on the face, I'm like, okay, that's not so bad. But
it was
the way
creepy staring.
It's the creepy
staring. Oh yeah. When they call and ask if there's a female, you're like, somebody wants a dick tattoo or somebody wants a butt tattoo or something. You know what I mean? But no, he came in and was like, I just want to stare into your big brown eyes for about half an hour. And I'm like, all right, man, but it's going to cost you like $100.
Wow. That is, that's pretty funny. I hope people get to watch the video because the way you did it, like that's so worth having the visual part of that. It's so worth it. Okay. All right. So you were at Granite, and then so what was your next move after that? You said it was 2 years, and then you came back to Fort Walton Beach area.
Yeah, I got really homesick actually in Orlando.
You didn't tell us. Didn't you tell me a story about like some shady stuff that happened in the parking lot or something in Orlando?
Oh, man, Orlando, baby, love it or leave it. Yeah, I think 2 people died in that parking lot while I worked there. One person was shot, and then their car like ran into the building. They ended up dying. And another person, I think, got stabbed maybe or something. You know, city life.
Wow.
Man.
Gee whiz.
There were some characters who like to hang out behind the buildings and stuff too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was shady. It was shady. But God, I love the dudes that I worked with though, man. They really kept an eye out for me. They'd always like wait until they saw me get to my car and leave in it before they'd get in their car and stuff like that. Yeah. The dudes, they really watched out for me.
Sort of brotherly type
thing.
You
Absolutely.
become part of that team, that pack, that family pact or whatever. Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Okay. Sorry. So, Fort Walton Beach. Sorry. I was just curious.
So yeah, I started getting really homesick in Orlando, and I was visiting home more often. And because I was visiting home so much, I decided to find a shop up here to do guest spots at. That way I could make a little money while I was visiting. And so I ended up working at Tattoos Forever, which was owned by Jeff Bullard at the time. And so once I had decided to leave Orlando and move back home permanently, they, were already comfortable with me, knew me, had room for me. So they opened up their doors and gave me a full-time position. And I worked for them for 2 years.
Yeah. Any new experience? Was it sort of like, oh man, I'm going back to somewhere where there's tourists now? Was there any heartburn with that? Or was it just sort of like the continuing evolution of like, at least I'm at home so I can deal with some of the more spring break type tattoos or whatever?
I was so happy to be back home and around my family and my support system and my friends and the beach and everything. I was just on kind of a natural high that I wasn't too bothered that I was at another tourist shop, and its hours were a little bit better. They wouldn't stay open past 10 p.m., which was nice. I used to, when I worked in Destin, I would work till midnight on the weekends and things. So you get burnt out pretty fast. So it had a little bit better hours, and I ended up really enjoying the staff. Some of the people that I worked with there, quite a few characters. That's where I met Bus, and I met Kurt, met Leah, I met quite a few really cool people that I'm still in contact with today that I worked with there.
Did you have any interesting tattoos that came out of that time frame that you were there? And I'm also curious if there's any difficult, like, cause I know I was going to ask earlier, but like at the private tattoo, was that one of the first times? Have you ever had to, like, you said, hey, I can do what I want to do more. Does that mean you got to turn down tattoos? Did you have that opportunity? And like, when was that? Was that in your Orlando time frame? Was that at the Tattoo Forever? Like, when were you first like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do that for you?
In Orlando was the first time I was ever really given the control of what I was doing and what I was not doing. Sometimes you do need someone to kind of put a boot in your ass and be like, hey, I know this is scary, but you really need to take on the challenge. But in Orlando, it was more, if you're not comfortable, you don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with, because you can really see it in tattooing. If a person's heart is not in it and they're just not focused or they're not comfortable, you end up seeing it in the artwork. So I think Todd valued his reputation and the comfort of his artist enough to be like, you are in control. If you don't want to come in today, you don't have to come in today. If you don't want to do this tattoo, you don't have to. If you want to split it into sessions, tell him.
Sure.
So.
Were you able to bring that into the Tattoos Forever?
Not as much. I mean, you can definitely say like, by the time I was in Fort Walton, I was like, we all know I do not have the skill for realism. Don't ask me to do a portrait. Don't ask me to do, you know what I mean? So I was never forced to do something I wasn't skilled at, but did I want to do every little palm tree or wave or, infinity symbol that came through? Absolutely not. Did I still do it? Yeah. Cause I had a boss that was like, somebody's got to do this and you're available. It's like, yes, sir.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah.
What was your interesting tattoo out of the Forever tattoo?
Out of Tattoos Forever. Most interesting tattoo. You know what? probably me and my colleague Bus tattooing each other. I think one of my favorite tattoos that I ever did and got while I was there was me and Bus tattooed little dead roaches on each other before he moved away to Austin, because we both have like this, like,
She is terrified of roaches. And so when she got that tattoo, I'm like,
so we both had a terrible roach experience at each other's houses. Like, I had crashed at his house one night on a blow up mattress, woke up and found a roach in the bed with me. I was scarred. And then he ended up crashing at my house one night on the couch, and a live one like crawled on his face. And he said in the dark, he like kind of like did like this. And he said it was so big he could hear it like the wall. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's Florida, man. There's roaches everywhere. You know what I mean? So anyways, it was funny because me and him left Tattoos Forever around the same time. He moved to Austin, Texas, which he's still there now. And I ended up leaving to pursue Mercy. So it was funny, before we stopped working together, we were like, let's get an ugly little dead roach, like missing a leg with some X'd out eyes on our leg. And it's the ugliest tattoo, but I love it so much.
Oh, that is fantastic. So what made you, I'm curious, because I think maybe it started in your artistry, because I think now we're going to get into the Mercy tattoo, right? Is that the next? Okay. Yeah. So as the specialty goes, right, and I heard it, you said it was the sacred geometry, pointillism, line work. When did you figure out like that was you? Like, because I know now, right, that's like exclusively, boom, that's you, Reanna. Reanna. It took a second again, Reanna. So quick joke, everybody, right? Because I call her Rihanna, and she's like, no, it's Reanna, and it's hard for my brain to.
Everybody calls me Rihanna or Renee or Rena, or what are some other good ones that you get all the time, Carli? Carli's the one that, bless her heart, answers the phone.
Rihanna is definitely the most popular, but yeah, Reanne.
They just forget the letter.
Yeah,
they see the first letter and the last one, and then they just make up the rest. I really feel like people just give up when they try to read my name. But yeah, people will call and be like, "Is Rena there?" And Carli's like, "No, we don't have one of those.
Sorry, I don't know who that is." So.
No, we have a Rihanna. Is that what you meant?
Wow,
like Carli,
straight up gatekeeper.
Yeah.
That's legit.
I'm telling you,
wow.
man, she's gotten feisty in the past few years.
Wow. So when did you experience that was your skill, that's what you really wanted to focus on and like do exclusively?
I knew in the very beginning that I had good line work. I actually picked that up from my mentor, Sandy. Sandy has very strong line work, and I think she was very, slap in the hand and made sure that I had that skill. In Orlando's, when I really started experimenting with dot work, sacred geometry, things that people weren't really asking me for, but things I was wanting to do. In Fort Walton is when I started making a reputation for myself with that. And by the time I got to Mercy, I was able to kind of really push it and exclusively do that, have pre-drawn designs and be like, this is what I want to do. Who wants it? Mm-hmm. Or when I had consultations, like, I'll do your idea, but leave room for me. Like, I'd really like to get creative and maybe do a little dot work here. Or maybe let's add a geo pattern here. And people listen a little bit more now, because you got to build to that point. It's again with like the apprentices that want to start today and they want to be just a pro out the gate. And it's like, you have to build your skill and earn these people's trust.
All right.
You know what I mean? Right. People need to be able to come to you and be like, this is your stuff. Okay. I trust you to let you do your thing. Not just, I'm a cowboy and I swear I can do it. And it's like, no.
So I'm curious now. So we're going to transition into the actual, like, getting your own shop, right? Like getting your own tattoo shop. Is that the appropriate term?
Shop, studio.
Studio is probably, is that more the official terminology?
That's what we named ours, Mercy Tattoo Studio. I think because it sounds fancier. Yeah. Doesn't it sound fancier?
Fancy name of the tattoo shop. Don't fancy up your name.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
I love it.
The business is fancy, not me. Mm-hmm.
Where did the title or name Mercy come from?
That was all Rihanna.
Yeah. So when I lived in Orlando, I used to have to drive past this road to get to work every day. That was called Mercy Drive. And it just stuck out to me and I loved it. I thought it sounded beautiful. And I was always like, man, that'd be a cool name for a shop. Mercy, kind of fun play on words. Are they going to beg for mercy? Are they going to show me mercy? Am I going to ask for mercy? You know what I mean? So that's where I first had the idea for the name. And I also wanted a name for the shop that was just very clear, legible. It's not easily confused with anything else. I didn't want a mouthful. And I wanted something serious. I got a pretty good sense of humor. And I've seen some pretty cool tattoo shop names like Sorry Mom Tattoo Company and stuff like that. But like I said, I wanted to go for something a little bit more upscale and less comical.
Yeah.
Professional. We're professionals.
Yeah.
Professional.
Carli had to be a part of it too, so I couldn't get too crazy.
You're like, no. So you were able to do that. And then as far as like the design goes of the actual lettering, because I know that's a big deal. How long did that take you? Was there a lot of trial and error with that?
I kind of had a vision in my head that I wanted to go for kind of this Art Deco kind of 20s vibe with it and do something very clean and streamlined that male, female, whoever would gravitate to. So I'm like, okay, black and gold. That's really pretty, high contrast, very classy. Do the Art Deco border. I ended up drawing that on paper. That was before I was working on like iPads and stuff as well. Yeah. The lettering we just pulled offline. That was just like a stock font or something. But I definitely had to go to a graphic designer to kind of polish that thing up.
Yeah.
It was in my mind when I first designed it. I was like, I know exactly what I'm going for.
So you mentioned it a little earlier, and I just want to, because this is, I think, a big deal as far as like doing and getting your own company and your business is, so like females in the tattoo industry, right? Like that's just like you said, male dominated, there's difference. So now you're getting to sort of that precipice or that pinnacle. So so you experienced the verbal abuse, and then did you just see that around other shop? Well, I guess I'm assuming you've have friends or had other friends that were female tattoo artists. Did they share in some of the same experiences that you had, that sort of, I guess, the rough around the edges, and that made you who you were as a tattoo artist and a person, and now going to be a business owner?
It's weird. I've never really sat and had conversations like that with other female artists. I didn't have the opportunity to work with a whole lot. I've primarily worked with males, and I would say 99% of the males that I've worked with have all been very respectful and very supportive and very professional. Every now and then there's a bad seed. I think most females in any industry will experience that. And I think probably all female tattoo artists have experienced it in one way or another, whether it's coming from the clientele side or from their employment side. I think sadly it's kind of one of those common unspoken things. Like all of us have a story. We just don't feel the need to like relive it, because I think to be a tattoo artist as well, you also need a kind of a special personality. You know what I mean? You really need to know how to handle people, handle yourself, be tough. And so the females in this industry, man, we get through those hurdles and it's just like, thank God that's over with, on to the next, Did you ever have to have you ever actually because I think you told me a story once, but have you ever had someone prior to the business, because I think there was one in the business, but have you ever had to actually stop midway through a tattoo and tell the person to leave? Like, have you ever experienced that? I have had to do that. It's been a very, very long time, but yes, I had a client come in one time. She had a terrible tattoo on her lower back. She wanted it reworked / covered. She wanted me to just do the best I could with it. I had her in the chair for maybe up to 30 minutes, 45 minutes before I kicked her out of my chair. I mean, just the kicking and the wiggling and the unruliness and the lack of respect for what I was trying to do for her. I mean, I just cranked the chair down and was like, get out. Wow. Like, I'm not going to have my name on this if it's going to be that bad. So just leave. You know what I mean? And she was very shocked and just like, really? And it's like, I mean, I can't tattoo you if you're running around the room.
Have you seen that? There's a meme, not a meme. Sorry, it's a video. It's not a meme. It's a video on I think Facebook or something. It's a little snippet, and it's a lady in a salon cutting someone's hair. And the lady says something super belligerent to, I think, the lady in the background, or someone's sitting there. And then the lady's like, Sue, you can't say that. That's not appropriate. And so she just starts going to town, and she's like, all right, Sue, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. She's like, you can't ask me to leave, blah, blah, blah. She's like, no, Sue. Like, I mean, apparently this is like a repeat customer. They've had business for a long time, but she just like went over the top. She just, whatever that may be. And so like, I don't know if it was 75% done. I don't know what the completion rate was for the haircut, but she was like, you got to go. Like, I can't have you here in my shop. Like I'm not you're disrespecting myself and this other person that's working or sitting there or whatever. Like you can't be here anymore. Yeah. So that's an interesting aspect because you'd almost think it would be something like, hey, they're being inappropriate. It's not necessarily the case. It's sometimes they're just like, they can't handle the situation, the environment, whatever else. And you're trying to coax them through or whatever. And you're like, hey, I'm so sorry. You're going to have to take off.
Mm-hmm. I think it's rare, but you definitely have had to check a few people on their behavior. Like, wanting to scream or that's disruptive to everyone. We're trying else to in the studio
party while they're there. Some people who are trying to like maybe sneak a drink in and stuff or things like that. Yeah, you definitely have to control people. And luckily, as a female, this is one of the perks of being a female in this industry is you can kind of be bitchy and get away with it. You know what I mean? Whereas a guy would come off really rude if he said some of the things that I said, and people might not come back but if I walk up and I'm like, hey, you ain't gonna act a fool in here. You know what I mean? I'm the only fool allowed in this place. They'll kind of laugh and like, okay, I'll behave. It's like, okay, good. Because I really don't want to have to throw you out of here. But
tourist areas, I'm sure, are pretty big, and the people probably coming in a little bit has some adult beverages or whatever. So is that, before we move on to the complete business instance, the last thing here. So with the belligerent side, but really like, because I've asked you this before. So what is the like, no joke, like, hey, don't have a beer beforehand or have a beer after, or like what can you truly, if I had a beer before I went in and got a tattoo, am I okay? Like, or am I going to just bleed all over the place?
No, you're going to die.
Like, I mean, I don't want to die, but that's, I'm just curious.
So I have actually had clients before that were so nervous and had themselves so worked up before a tattoo that I would send them next door to like have a margarita real quick or have one shot just to take the edge off. Now, alcohol thins your blood. Obviously, you don't want that going on while you're tattooing. What happens is as your body is flushing blood out and I'm trying to pack ink in, I can't get the ink in, the blood will be diluting my ink. So you end up with kind of this washed out tattoo that ends up needing to be touched up. So you have to do the whole tattoo twice. Whereas if you were just sober to begin with, it probably would have looked fantastic and perfect.
What about fish oil? Does that do it as well?
Not that I know of. Not in my experience have I ever had any issues with people that have been taking fish oil, but yeah, one drink, 2 drinks, not going to kill you before a tattoo. It's being heavily intoxicated. Like I've even had clients that drank the night before and partied so hard that the next day during their hangover, their blood was still so thin that I was having trouble tattooing them.
Yeah.
So
if you want a good quality, probably not the day before or morning or afternoon of, just for the quality purpose.
You can party after, celebrate with some drinks. You know what I mean? Like drinking after a tattoo doesn't affect it at all. You know what I mean? But drinking beforehand is usually a no-no.
Gotcha. Okay. So thank you for telling us that. Everybody has now learned something, right? We've added value to each other. So as far as the business goes, you got the name, you have family that is semi-supportive just due to experience. So now we get into like, where am I going to have my studio? Like how do you start searching or researching to find a place, a physical location to actually put your studio? How did that go for y'all?
Well, I was leaving the Fort Walton area. So out of respect, I obviously did not want to leave, tattoos forever. And I really have a lot of respect for Jeff Bullard and, didn't want to upset him in any way. So Fort Walton was off limits in my mind already. You can't just leave a shop and then set up.
So is that important for the tattoo industry, like the competition side of the house and having respect for each other?
It's definitely one of the unwritten rules in the industry. There's a lot of old school respect type of mentality. Do people follow these rules to this day? Not so much anymore, but some of us who have a lot of love and respect for this industry still do it. Before I opened Mercy, I wasn't even, I wasn't working for Jeff anymore at the time. And I even called him and met up with him and told him face to face, like, I'm going to open my own shop. I wanted you to hear it from me. and this is where it's going to be, and I would like to have your blessing. It was just a respect thing. It's I want you to hear it from me, and I'm not setting up in your backyard. I'm not trying to bite any of your business. I'm just moving on to do my own thing. And, it was a nice handshake and a very, you have my blessing type of thing. Not a lot of people do that anymore, but back in the day, man, you'd get a brick thrown through your window or your tires slash if you set up shop in the wrong neighborhood. Actually, Alan Dixon, the guy who owned the very first shop that I ever worked at, he's British, but he started tattooing in Germany. And he told me a story about him and a buddy of his. I mean, all they had were the belongings in their bag. They went to Germany. They're hopping off the train to go try to start a tattoo shop somewhere. And a tattoo shop in that city had heard. And they sent like some mafia dudes to meet them at the train station. And they were pretty much like, go ahead and hop back on this train because you're not working here. And they were like, okay. Because they didn't want their hands broken. Like back in the day, you did not mess with other people's business in the tattoo industry because, yeah, they'll break your hands. Yeah.
So now that you have like your area where you want to go and you have the blessing, like how did you find the physical location portion?
Well, like I said, thankfully we had Josh, Carli's husband, who was in the realty business. So he's just, constantly finding things for everybody. Do you want to open your own business? Do you want a house? Do you want this? Do you want to? We were having a hard time finding a location that would rent to us. Not a lot of people wanted to take in a tattoo studio just because of, bad reputations and taboo of the industry and things like that. So Josh was actually smart enough to look for buying opportunities for us. And we ended up being able to purchase 2 units in Fountain Plaza in Miramar. And so that was a great blessing to be able to own our own place and really be able to do with it whatever we want instead of signing a 3-year lease and potentially being kicked out, when it's over. So knowing that we have a roof over our head for as long as we want is just such a huge relief.
Mm-hmm. So was it easy? Was there any kind of like, excuse me, I know you said that there was some inspections or you sort of had to get some buy-in from some other folks that just maybe didn't quite understand what you were doing with the tattoo side of the house?
Do you want to take on this part? I had told him previously about how the plaza, once they realized we were renovating to become a tattoo shop, were very...
Well, like she had mentioned, there's a lot of
it's like
bad
a stigma,
reputations
right?
out there. Yeah. And that was a huge goal for us was to break that in people's minds. We're not a scary biker gang out to cause trouble,
right?
And having a bunch of riffraff in and out at all hours of the night. But but that's what people's idea is a lot of time. And even sometimes you'll see on movies, this tattoo shops, they're dark. They have chain link fence up for some reason.
Right.
It's scary. And I'm just like, it's really not like that. We have to abide by strict health codes.
Yeah.
So it scared them. They were not a fan of us.
I don't think they still are.
3 years later, yeah. But I think they've seen like, this isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
We've proven ourselves and we've done what we said we were going to do. Like we all have families. We don't like to be there late.
Right.
We like to get home to our families and our kids, and we're not partying there.
Yeah, man, we just want to pay our taxes and live the American dream. Yeah. We just want to be normal people,
Yeah.
They just want to do cool tattoos and go home.
Right.
But yeah, they were pretty upset when we first got into that plaza.
Yeah, but like I said, time has gone by. They don't give us a hard time really anymore. Maybe they're softened up a little bit now, but
there's a lot. Just in general, right? Even outside just the industry, just tattoos at large, right? Some people, just some old school way of thinking just about tattoos, just period, right? And piercings. And now it's like, you can pretty much, it's almost abnormal. It's almost abnormal at this point for a certain person of a certain age, you're like, you don't have a tattoo? Like,
Right.
it's almost like a red
Weirdo.
flag. Like, wait a minute, you're 43 and never been married? No, I'm just kidding. Like,
Right, yeah.
red flag. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like these things you're just like, man, this is something just a little bit strange here. Like, what's going on? So I think, it's unfortunate. And I think there's a lot of places that have broken that stigma, and like yours being one of them, right? I think that's really important. Again, especially the bathroom, right? You guys have like the squared away bathroom. Okay, so you have the place. So tell me about the renovation. Like, what did it look like before? And then like, how did you go in and actually, you had this vision in your mind, and did you guys do it? Did you hire people to come in and renovate? Like, how did that go?
It was a dog grooming business before.
Yes.
So they had,
There was hair everywhere, man.
Yeah, some
it was
dog
insane.
hair.
Like every outlet cover I'd take off, there's like hair behind
Like
the
a
wall.
small poodle that pops up.
Yeah,
Even
it was
one of the
insane.
walls, there was hair.
I found
all in it.
hair forever. And there was also a wall in there that was glitter. And when I say glitter, I mean it's like they painted the wall with glue and then just dunked like glitter all over it. So that was fun to demo that wall and get that everywhere. It was
So our dad helped us. He is
Yeah.
a jack of all trades. He can build anything, fix pretty much anything. So thank God.
Thank God for Dad.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dwayne McCormick. We love you, Dad. Thank you so much. He saved us a lot of money.
Yes, he did. So, but Reanna actually drew up the whole floor plan because it was very different. It had walls up all the way, a big, tub in there for bathing the dogs.
There was a
and things
huge
like
water
that.
heater in the back for them. We ended up installing an electric water heater that didn't take up any space, and we're disposable at the shop, so we didn't need like a scrub room or anything. So
Right.
yeah, he took measurements of the unit that we had. I drew out a new floor plan. We started demoing, and then piece by piece got things in there, put the partitions up, laid the floor, and installed a new sink.
There was one wall that was wallpapered. And I think everyone in the family spent many hours just slowly trying to peel that paper off.
But did you do like the steam gun? Have you ever seen that where people use a steam gun and then it just like peels away because it like takes the glue off?
I had seen the videos of that, but Dad didn't have one and wasn't taking the time out of his day, all the things he was doing to find me what I needed. So I sat in there and I had this system where I kind of like get my fingertips kind of damp, and you just find a corner and you could get it going, and like, ooh, it's like peeling a sunburn. It was like, ooh, got a big piece. Literally everyone in the family that would stop by, like the boys and stuff, I'd be like, get on a ladder and get up there, peel some of that wallpaper off.
Painstaking.
yeah.
So I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous now. So how many stalls do you have?
We have 3 booths.
Sorry.
And they're all full right now. So yay us.
Yay.
Yay. How do you go about, because I want to ask some other questions. I'll wait. Don't forget. I'm going to ask how you go about choosing your artist to go in there. Okay. So how now that you have this shop, right? Like you've found money somehow through loans, through family, through friends, whatever, like to support, like to buy this thing out. Cause I'm sure that's pretty pricey. And luckily you had the realty side of the house covered. Yay. So as far as like, hey, I want to like start putting the word out there, right? Because word of mouth gets you pretty far. I mean, actually, there was somebody on that said, the traveling painter, she does like painting. She said that she has like a Squarespace where people buy the tickets and they'll have a drop down arrow of like, hey, how did you get to know about me? And word of mouth is like 80% or something like great.
Yeah.
Like it is more than any other her social marketing. So how did y'all get the word out about Mercy and start getting that like on social media?
Well, first we had to make social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, and we
Had a
found
website made.
A graphic designer. She, with Rihanna's ideas, built the website and got that up and running, and business cards too. I think we were handing out a lot of cards.
Oh yeah, we were handing out
first.
cards before the shop was even fully renovated.
Wow.
It was just like,
Yeah.
but I think it was good that I had been tattooing in the area for quite a few years already and kind of had a little bit of a local clientele. And I was getting a lot of questions when I left Tattoos Forever, like, oh my gosh, where are you going to be? Are you tattooing still? Like, where are you going to? And I was like, to be announced. So I kind of had people waiting for that information
She had a following.
from me.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So people were eager and looking to see what was going to be happening next for me. And it just so happened to be Mercy.
So when you
worked
get the
out.
phone calls now, Carly, like being the gatekeeper, are people saying, hey, I found you guys online through TikTok, through Instagram, or like, hey, my friend told me about it? What are you getting a majority of?
Wow, majority, I'd say it's kind of 50-50 because we do live in such a tourist area. So those people just Google it.
Right.
Right. So they're like, oh, you popped up first. You've got great reviews. There's that. And then the other side would be, my friend has work from Reanna, or my friend came and saw Dave or Rome and they loved it. It looks awesome. I want to come in, so it's really kind of half and half given where we live.
Yeah.
But, like you said, word of mouth, or, and the clients are walking advertisements for you as well.
That's very true. Yeah, I've had quite a few people. In fact, like I know my buddy went and saw Dave, and then I have another buddy that wants to go see Dave too coming up. But it's pretty funny.
Good.
Yeah.
Keep them busy.
Yep, I know. Yeah.
Keep spending them.
One day after I sell my kidney on the black market, we'll have money and I'll have my wife come see you guys. But you saw where all the money went recently. Okay, so part of that, like, so you have the social media, the marketing. Now people are starting to come in. So, but first, right, like it was just you. So how did you get the first two artists to fill the other two?
So I worked the first year by myself.
Oh, really?
I worked the very first year, a whole year by myself.
Wow.
Well, again, we opened in March of 2020.
Wait, don't talk about COVID. We have that as a question mark yet.
Okay.
We're not there yet. Almost.
Okay. But I think because all that was going on at that time made it also a little bit difficult to try to staff the shop right out the gate.
Being new.
Yeah.
Being new. You have to build your reputation.
Right.
Like who is this new shop that just, came in, or, who's working there.
But with COVID, the industry was a little like, are we open? Are we not open? Should I stay where I'm at? Is this the time to find a new job? You know what I mean? So yeah, I did the first year on my own.
So 2019 to 20, is that right?
2000.
We opened in 2020.
Oh,
to 21.
I didn't realize. I guess then it is appropriate to talk about COVID because that's literally like,
I mean,
in the most robust portion of.
Like a couple weeks.
Oh man.
We opened, and I think like 2 weeks later there was the mandatory shutdown.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it was a gut punch. But
yeah, because I always ask.
You want to talk about it now? You want to talk about it later?
Spoiler, jump in. Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, especially. Well, I didn't realize that. I thought you had like a year time frame first, and one, I didn't know you were working by yourself the first year. That's crazy, and all that general. Okay, so COVID definitely impacted y'all because you opened during COVID.
Yes.
Like, wow. And out of all things, right? Because it is, what it was about the whole germ thing, disease.
Yeah.
Like. And then now you're being intimate with people like up in their face, and you're dealing with their skin and blood and all that. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So how did y'all deal with that? That's crazy.
We closed and we decided to do video consultations with people. So, everyone started working from home using Zoom, all these things now. So we're like, okay, how can we make that work for us too?
Right.
Obviously, there's still a lot of people who are interested.
Yeah.
And, they were very excited leading up to the opening. And so we're like, hey, let's do video. So she would get on video calls with clients who were interested and just kind of kept the communication open that way.
Right.
And we would take deposits, and I'd get their ideas, and I'd go ahead and work on their drawings. And it was pretty much just a wait list. Like, I got your idea, your information is here. You're just not on my books yet because I don't know when my books will open. But I just started creating this contact list of like, once we were up and running again, I could just call people and be like, what day do you want? What day do you want? What day do you want? Your stuff's ready. What day do you want?
So you had to close, right? They would not allow you guys to be.
I know that there was some tattoo shops in the area that still stayed open. I think there was a little bit, the lines were blurred with what was deemed essential and non-essential at the time.
Yeah.
But I was too nervous with it being my brand new baby that we had just put so much money into. Right. I did not want to start off with getting like fined by the health department or getting a bad review or a bad reputation for being open at a time like that. So it was just like, better safe than sorry. Things are crazy right now. Let's just close. We'll do the best we can with what we have. And let's just like pray that we can open soon.
Yeah.
But that's great that you had, even it was minute, but you had some kind of income because people are still putting deposits down. And then, okay, so I'm very curious how this leads, but okay, so wow, that man, I talk about tough. Yeah, because, you know, I've had, right, the brewery, had Fran on, talked a little bit about that and how they had to pivot largely and like start selling beer because, you know, no one could come in to purchase beer. So they had this thing that they had where you could drive through and they had to make their website where you could actually purchase the beer on the website and all that stuff first. So there was a ton of pivoting. And then Corey at the Locals Eatery, he's coming on sometime soon. Just had a kiddo, but he's coming on. But same boat, like how can we get our to-go orders out? Like I want to keep some staff as much as I can because that's the other thing too. I mean, fortunate, unfortunate, it's y'all, right? Like where other people have, you know, 20, 30 people working for them. They're like, now what do I do? Like I have to let all these people go, knowing that this is their background in this industry. And now they're just not going to have income, you know? Yeah. And I know a lot of people, you know, they drew the unemployment and that got them through the time period and maybe even past some. Some people are like, sure, I'll just keep going. Okay. So, wow. So now it came to a point where how did you feel comfortable to actually open? Like when did that occur?
I can't remember at what point. Was it the summer? I actually can't remember.
It had to be by the summer for sure. I want to say maybe we were closed for like a month, 2 months,
a couple months,
3 months, something. It's all a blur. Doesn't everyone
really
feel like from like 2020 to 2017?
It's all like
it's
one
just
day.
A blur.
It's one long
You're
day.
asking me like, what were you doing in this month? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea.
And you know, Florida became the place to go.
Yes.
You know, so that helped us a lot too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you're California,
yeah. So Florida became the place to go. There was a huge influx of people coming here. It was like a year-round vacation. It was just packed the entire year.
Wow.
Yeah, that first year in business was crazy. There was no off season.
How many days did it take you to get caught up with all those designs? So if you're up in like, you know, 2 or 3 months, closed 2 or 3 months getting those designs in, how many days were you like, holy crud, like I mean, I know they were probably separated out during the time frame or whatever, but if you were to add that time frame up, would you say that was like 5 days worth of tattooing that was sort of, you know, backed up from designs? Less than that?
Months.
Oh, wow.
She was booked months out.
Oh,
wow. It
wow.
got to a point, in that first and maybe even into the second year where my wait was like 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
5 to 7 months wait to get in with me.
Does that
crazy?
Like, I don't want to say tantalize, but is that like a thing, right? Because it's like you want to go to a restaurant and they're like, oh, 3 month wait or a year wait. That must be really good. Like, did you get any of that? Because it's like, it's a wait. Her stuff must be like legit. Like, I definitely want her because there's a wait.
People definitely just assume that. They're like, oh my God, you must be so good if the wait's so long. And it's like, really, I'm just busy and behind, but I'm also good. Yeah, it's funny because when it happened, I remember being a young tattoo artist and being like, I can't wait until I'm famous and I'm booked and I get to pick what I want to do. And then when it happened and it's like, holy I would look at my calendar and be like, I've sold my life for the next 6 months.
Wow.
You know, and it got to the point where it really overstressed me. I couldn't do last minute things like if a friend had a baby shower or a birthday party or a wedding or a concert, any little thing, I'm booked.
We have since curbed that.
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was just like fame and glory. And then I was like, hold on, wait.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
No more balance. Yeah. Balance is rough.
Right. Finding that balance. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You always want to go to baby showers. They have cool games and win free prizes.
Yeah.
Like guess the hell round and taping. I went to one. So, okay. So now that you're open, you're booked, how do you start like looking and seeking and finding other tattoo artists to come fill the other 2 stations?
Social media. Yeah. That's really where everyone looks now. So we had Instagram and Facebook, and that's all we have still. But I remember your friend Mary saying, oh, you should get a TikTok. And I'm like, I really don't want to get a TikTok.
We hate technology. We really do. We don't like it. It doesn't like us. If something happens to the internet or the printer at the shop, it is just absolute chaos. The only thing Carli and I
Pandemonium.
The only thing we know how to do is to turn it off and turn it back on and hope for the best. Like that's really our problem shooting. So we have Instagram, we have Facebook.
But there's tattoo forums.
Yeah.
Really?
Tattoo artist groups.
Okay.
And that you can advertise that you're hiring or looking for if anyone wants to do a guest spot.
Yeah.
I mean, you can put it, you can put it all out there. And that's really the best way.
But then after that, you check their social media, see how they kind of present themselves.
Interesting.
Because we definitely have had people that reached out to us looking for a job, and then you'd like go to his Facebook and his profile pictures like, badass motherfucker. And it's like,
I never understood why people, I mean, y'all probably, sticking the middle finger and taking a picture. Never understood it. Won't do it. Don't get it. I just don't get it. I'm not saying it's wrong. Just saying me
I flick the bird all the time. I just don't like document it and then
as
post
your
it
profile
for everyone to see. But
so weird.
So we would check their social media, see how they present themselves, kind of what type of person they are. Of course, check their portfolio, see what their work looks like. Always have people come in for interviews. That way we can kind of get a feel for them, have a face-to-face. But it was always a big priority for us with hiring too, to make sure that we had a personal connection, kind of like the person, because I spend more time at the shop than I do at home. I really need to get along with these people.
Right.
You know, so someone could be a super amazing artist, but if they just had a crap personality and no, people skills with the clients or creepy or something, I'm like, I'm sorry, but I just don't want us represented like that.
Sure.
It really had to be the right fit.
Yeah. It's very intimate, right? Compared to other industries. So did you ever have you ever had anybody pull the whole facade thing where they show up, you're like, oh yeah, this person's awesome. And then 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they're like, yeah, that's not the person that showed up at the interview. Cause that happens often. So I'm just curious if that happens.
No, it's much longer.
Oh,
no, I'm kidding.
Or we would have people reach out and be really interested. And then okay, let's meet up. Okay. We have a date and time set. And then they don't show up.
Yeah. Ghosted.
Yeah. So
that's tough. Yeah. My buddy who was on, he has he does the cleaning service industry. I think I've told you about him, Logan. And so he actually created it's now a software as a service business, but it's automated hiring. So it vets people. And so now that it's a lot different in your industry, but for that industry, it's 75%, 80% is all automated. And so by the time they get through those gates, right before they wouldn't get to the Carli gate, they've gone through amount of work. And so if they put in that effort, he's found, right, through this automated process, that they will show up, right? And it's proof in the pudding as far as percentages goes and how often he's used this. So now he's selling that to the cleaning industry, which is phenomenal, because if you think about how much time that is, for that amount of people, right? Right, smaller, but a large business where I need 100 people to clean, and it's seasonal and I peak and come down, and these are 1099, they're not my employee. I mean, just fascinating stuff. So it's interesting to hear that more and more often today in the environment, even in other industries such as yourself, is these people flake out or they just ghost. But I mean, if you go on LinkedIn, you read about it all the time.
Yeah.
All these recruiters are I don't understand. They've gone through all this trouble and effort or whatever. We've gotten here, or I've put in a lot of energy, and then these people don't even show up.
Yeah.
And now it feels like all that time is wasted that you just did, right? All that connection, whether it's email, the forums, all that stuff to get to that point, and then they just don't show up.
That's how we feel when people don't show up to their appointment or their consultation. It's what a waste of time.
Right. That's
I don't get that. I'm more I would at least call. Hey, I'm sorry. Whatever. Do they do that at least?
I mean, that would be the grown-up thing to do. Some do. But there's definitely been some just straight up no call, no shows. And usually when that situation happens, I'll give someone about 15, 20 minutes. If my client doesn't show up, I usually reach out to Carli and say, have you heard from them? Are they stuck in traffic? Or, usually my thought is concern, oh man, I hope they're not in an accident, or I hope something, bad hasn't happened. And usually that's never the case. It's never a car accident or anything, but Carli has reached out to people before to just see are you close or where are you? And people will pick up and then hang up. And then she's like, oh no, they didn't. And she'll call them back and they let it go to voicemail. And she's like, oh no, they didn't. Yeah. Carli's you can't hide from me.
Leave them a voicemail, never hear from them again.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I remember the one time the person thought it was the wrong day. I was sitting there with Dave, and then somebody was coming. I can't remember the other tattoo artist, and they're going to show up. And I had met her. It was funny. She came in for a consultation, and I was there during that when I was getting some artwork done. And then it was I don't know, a week later, 2 weeks later. And, the other guy's like, oh man, I wonder where this person is. And I'm like, isn't that the same person that we met, Dave? I'm like, there's no way that this girl would have blown off not coming or whatever. And so it was like the wrong day on her calendar or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's those circumstances too, right? It's like just.
That happens. Yeah.
It's rare, but that happens. Yeah. Because sometimes during a consultation, you'll be like, do you need me to write it down? No, I'm putting it in my calendar. And then, they leave the building and an hour later, they're calling Carli. Wait, what day was it?
Oh.
And it's like the 12th. Like I said, I'll write it down. No, I got it. And it's like, they're going to miss this appointment. They're going to
That is terrible. I'm all about my, like family has a shared calendar now. Like we with everything, the logistics, like we have to, like, I can't do like individual, if it's a reminder for me, but usually because it involves like someone doing something else because there's just like a domino effect with everything going on out there. There's like a domino effect. So that's pretty rough that people didn't have that opportunity to like, because it's your time, right? To value your time as well.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you vet them through the portfolio. Okay. So you go through forums, you go through social media, have interest, they'll contact y'all. You do look at their social media as part of the vetting process. You look their portfolio. Then they come in one-on-one. You make sure that you guys can hold a conversation, and they're not like, staring at y'all weird, right?
Right.
Like, get me here. And then like,
let me tell you that one thing, one of the keys to the gate, if you will, is if they reach out to us, you were talking about handwritten letters.
Oh.
Of course, there's no handwritten letter, but a nice, well-written message. That's a key to my heart, right?
It really is. That's how Carli fell in love with Dave. Carli hired Dave before we even met him because he had such an amazing email.
This message.
Carli's like, look at the punctuation in this email.
Is that a semicolon? And you used it right? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Complete sentences, correct punctuation.
Nice form. It had a greeting. It had an ending, It had his contact information.
Just someone who knew how to communicate.
Yeah.
So, and Rome's was very, very good too. I'll pat him on the back as well. But yeah, some people are just like, hey, I need this. This is how I do things. And it's going to be like this.
I'm cash only and I'm and I'm like, I'm king bitch in this shop. I get to say how things are. And you don't come to my house and tell me how you work. You know what I mean? Like, I'm willing to work with you, but come up in here telling me how it's going to be. You've lost your mind.
So how have y'all dealt with like customer retention? So people that want repeat business, have you seen that? There a high percentage there? Is there things that you do intentionally to have them come back? Like how have y'all experienced and or try to get repeat customers?
I'd say it is a high percentage of repeat customers. Some are session work. They just want a very large piece. So obviously they're gonna, like you were there like 3 times a week.
For months. You almost just put a cot in the back for you. You were
little
there
hammock.
so often. Yeah. Gave you your own shelf in our little mini fridge in the back. I would say the key to having people come back is first of all the work. Just always making sure that we're supplying good artwork, and then having a comfortable environment. I think keeping the shop clean, keeping it aesthetically pleasing, you know what I mean? People really enjoy coming in and seeing all the artwork. They like the complimentary waters. They like that we offer little aftercare gift bags. The bathroom's clean. I think the shop just being very inviting and comfortable makes people want to come back.
Yeah.
So you have the clientele the portion coming back. How have you maintained, it's been a couple of years, but how have you maintained good artists in your shop? Like, why do they want to stay and work in your shop or studio? Sorry.
That's been a process. I think we've just now gotten to a really happy place.
Yeah.
Like I said, when you are looking for someone to come and join your work team, and like Reanna said, you're going to be spending a lot of time with these people. Sometimes it's trial and error. You're like, okay, yeah, let's try this out. I'm like, okay. 6 months later, a year later, like, this really isn't working.
It's not a good
This
fit.
dynamic isn't working. Yeah, it's not a good fit. And, it's not always, something personal against them, but just it's not a good fit.
Sure.
So found Dave, love him.
I love
Rome's here now.
Yeah.
And we are just giddy.
Oh,
we're
so
so happy with the crew we have going on right now.
Great.
Yeah,
like we're really taken back. It's actually the first year that we're going to do like a Christmas dinner with our staff and everything,
Great.
and take them out with their plus ones, and because we're just so tickled that we have a staff that we actually probably enjoy hanging out with outside of work.
That's
for
fantastic.
the first time in a long time.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's funny because I'll ask other people that own businesses, do you do like a morale family picnic, or do you guys do like a Friday I'll buy pizza type of deal, just like to keep the morale up and like as a work benefit, right? It's like, hey, we don't have space for a foosball table and ping pong or like a sleep pod, like one of the larger companies does or something that with a space. But it's like, how do I not only get to enjoy the dynamic while we're working, but something like outside of it, right? So we just get to have fun or just chat outside of like work chat, if you will. So that's pretty cool. Like that's neat that you guys Christmas parties are so fun. I mean, they can be really, really fun. My company does one every year. They're great. They're great. It's a whole. We might have a fancy one this year, and I'm a little like, but I really like the interaction. Sometimes you don't get to see these other people for a while, and you like to interact. But like, if it's so fancy and restricted, then you don't get the opportunity because then you're like sliding chairs out of the way and trying to get to people. So So just remember.
I'm sure you make it work. You find a way to socialize at any party you go to. Sorry, excuse me.
I'm just going to move all this furniture.
Those tables can go over there.
It just shows appreciation. I think that's a big thing in keeping the guys happy and making people or having people enjoy working for us is showing appreciation, which is something is really important to me because I like treating the guys the way I always wish I had been treated as an employee. And I think lack of appreciation was a big thing for me. So I always enjoy telling the guys that tattoo looked awesome or, you're doing a great job or your booth is so clean or any chance I can give them a compliment, I try to.
And checking in with them too, like, hey, is everything going good? Is there anything
Are you happy?
Yeah. Because we do care about that because if everyone's happy there, then everything goes smoothly for everyone. So yeah.
So there's the happy wife and then there's the happy artist.
Yes.
Happy artist. Happy...
Man, you do not want to upset tattoo artists, man. Artists, it's funny when we started Mercy together, I told her, I was like, tattoo artists are the worst human beings of all time. We are the worst people to work with. It's always just moody and excuses and we're forgetful and it's just, I can't work in these conditions and what I mean? I was like, we really are some of the most high maintenance worst people to work with. So yeah, when everybody's happy, oh my God, it's just so, it's like angels singing, I just hear it in the background every time I go into the shop.
I've heard so many similarities in different arts and then we'll move on, but there's an artist realm, barbershops, salons are very, very similar from some of the things y'all are saying, very art, creative people. They're there's, I'm not gonna say extremists in a weird way, but there's some very extreme behaviors and eccentricities. I don't know if that's a word, eccentric things and natures and characteristics of people. And like you said, it's what are your hobbies? Well, I do this and then you do this. You're like, oh, wow, that's very interesting. Or hey, I'm doing this. And you're like, okay, but it's a very art mindset. And that's nothing wrong with that. Like you said, you're aware of it. And that's, I think self-awareness is epic, especially when you're in business to be successful. It's having that awareness and verbalizing it, not just keeping it to yourself. And then everyone's cool. Now we understand the environment. We got it, from your business set and the gatekeeper, you get it too. And you're like, all right. And that checking in is a big deal. I mean, everyone wants that sense of purpose and feeling, right? I want to feel like I'm part of a team or something. And that's huge. So is there anything else that you want to touch on with the business before we move on as we're getting close to wrapping up? Anything else?
No.
You had the whole book of notes, man. I was just really hoping I touched on everything of your awesome.
I just had little notes for the things that I already had memorized. It's funny. But you have thrown a few curveball questions at me, a few things that I didn't expect to talk about. But
that's my goal.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything.
No.
I think we're good.
Okay. So I want to ask, it's a twofold question. I want to know any lifelong personal lesson and professional lesson that each of y'all have. So in other words, what has been something that's ran through your mind that's a theme that you've lived with from a professional sense and a personal sense? So Carli, we'll start with you.
Oh, do you want him to start with me? We actually talked about this question on the drive over here.
Okay.
Because this
fantastic.
has actually been the toughest one. We both kind of were like, what are you going to say? I don't know. What are you
no, great.
It's just hard to narrow it down.
Carli was like, geez, what a loaded question. Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. So I met an artist named Freak when I was working in Orlando. And I remember a conversation I had with him that I have just carried with me the rest of my life. I will carry this with me. And it applies to my work life and my personal life. And I remember him telling me, you have to teach people how to treat you. And it's so true. It's so true. You go into a work environment and you might, just assume that these people are going to welcome you and these people are going to be on their best behavior and they're going to want what's best for you. But that's not always true. Some of these people are terrible and they don't support you and they don't want good things for you and they'll mistreat you. But you have to teach them how to treat you. Like, oh, you can be a piece of shit, but you're not going to be a piece of shit to me, And in real life too, anytime you go out somewhere and, someone's trying to give you a hard time or maybe guilt you into something or talk you into something you don't want, you know what I mean? Sometimes you have to be like, that's not how you treat me. This is how you treat me. And it works every time. Every time when I play that in my head, like you have to teach people how to treat you.
That's great.
It always works out. You just have to be very clear with people sometimes and make your boundaries known. And either they accept them and they can be a part of your life or they don't. And then they stay out of your way, which is the best because I don't want negative influences close to me.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's good. Was that your professional and personal?
Yes.
It was a good combined answer.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's fantastic.
I thought about it for a long time.
Yeah, that's really good.
It was written much better in this book.
All right, Carli.
So personal, I guess what really just sticks out to me is just having your family first. And, starting a business and everything. Obviously, we shared there were some concerns there about, I hope this doesn't ruin your relationship with your sister. And, but I think that I would step away if I thought if it was ever going to get to that point. And like, okay, you can just take the reins, it's fine. I'll step away because our personal relationship, she's one of my best friends. That's not worth a business, and for, my husband or my boys, if I thought that was anything was taken away from my relationship with them, step away from that, set that down, because that really is the priority. Mm-hmm. These are the people who you count on and who are really going to be there for you, not a client that came into the shop.
Right.
You know? So I would say just making your family a priority, putting those relationships first. That's a huge lesson for me. On the business side, kind of going off of what Reanna said, you do have to lay down boundaries. You have to learn to set boundaries for people respectfully. Mm-hmm. And if they don't want to respect those boundaries, you can just, I'm sorry, this isn't going to work. We can't work together. Mm-hmm. Because you have to have that balance, that work-life balance.
Right.
So setting those boundaries, so you can just be healthy mentally, physically, and overall just keep your life happy.
And that can be uncomfortable at times to tell people no. Yeah. I don't think anybody enjoys giving bad news or conflict or things like that. But Carli's gotten way better at saying no in the past few years. Carli's very anti-conflict, but after running a tattoo shop for almost 4 years, she'll crack that whip on just about anybody, man.
In a nice way.
Oh, no, always in a very nice way. The clients are lucky. They never hear my version of a response. They let it, it gets translated by Carli.
She's like I
translate.
Oh, absolutely.
Translator. Yeah,
oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Have you ever seen Anger Translator on Key and Peele? Have you ever seen that skit on Key and Peele? The
Love
Anger
Key and Peele. I don't know if I've seen that one or not.
Okay, YouTube it after I leave. Pretty much, I'm like Carli's anger translator. And she's my calm translator.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
If she says something nice and kind, like you're able to accelerate.
Yeah, I'm
and make
able to be like, what she really said was. Yeah.
I love this, guys.
And vice versa.
That's great. Okay, so let's see. Before the final special question, is there anything else that you guys would like to discuss or anything else that I missed just holistically? Anything else, Carly? Do you got anything? Questions, comments, concerns?
Mercy Tattoo Studio, Fountain Plaza, Miramar Beach, Florida. Come check us out. Got some awesome artists, and we'd love to take care of you. We have a very clean bathroom.
Yes.
And great reviews. So yeah, hit us up.
5-star bathroom.
5-star bathroom.
5-star bathroom. 4.99999% studio, but the bathroom is 5. And someday they will have shirts.
Yes, very soon.
Yeah.
Double XL for this guy right here.
2024.
That is happening this year.
Yes.
I've made it a point, to allow the budget so that hopefully by spring.
Can I be one of the first 50 people? 50?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sure. Thank you.
We'll save one for you.
Yes, I will pay you a price.
We'll even sign it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's super legit. No, I'm super big. Okay, I like that. All right. So final thing here. So special question. You haven't listened to these, right? No? Okay. So I'm going to ask each of you a different one.
Okay.
You're welcome. Okay. So Carly, if you had an extra day in your life, would you live it in the past or the future?
I would say past, but it's going to take me some more time to think of what day I would go to.
You don't have to worry about the day, but the past.
I would go to the past.
Is there any reasoning behind that?
Just to maybe like see someone again.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe see Miami grandma again.
Yeah.
Sit down and have a conversation with her.
Mm-hmm.
Go into the future. Yeah, I don't know what I would do.
Sure.
But, I know there's people I love and miss I definitely would want to see again.
Great.
Talk to, spend some time with.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. I always, and like everyone, I always ask that question. I get both.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting because of that reason, a lot for the past, and the future is like, like I've accepted my past. Like I would be very interested in seeing myself or my family in the future and like what they're doing and where we're headed or whatever, which it's very fascinating. I love that question. So thank you very much for answering that question, Carly. I know it's one of those things. Okay. Reanna.
I know you did. You made it through the whole podcast. Getting it right.
I
And
literally
right at the end,
say
you
it.
tripped.
I stop and I say it in my mind over and over again. In your life, how many beds have you slept in?
Oh my God. What is this question? Too many. More than a lot. How many beds have I slept in?
I don't think I would even have a ballpark for that.
No, me neither. Or do I count blow up mattresses and floors and back seats and couches and stuff? I don't know. A lot. Of beds.
Yeah. So,
here's a good. I just moved into a house and it was my 11th time moving and I'm only 35. I feel like that's a lot.
That's a lot.
I've moved around a lot. I've been a
moves.
lot of different places.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's really like so when I ask people that specific question, I always tell them it's not really the number, but it's the journey your mind goes on. When you start trying to count, you go, okay, I was a kid and we grew up here. I slept here, but then didn't I go over to whomever's house and have a sleep there? And then didn't we go on a family vacation and I went to this hotel and I went in this, camp, like you said, like, was it a blow up? Was it a whatever? And then you start going and then like, my buddy Fran who walked across the States, he's like, oh man, I couch surfed like, the entire time, or I slept in my tent. And it's like, and especially folks that have been in like the military, because they deploy and then while they're deploying, they're spending the night somewhere, or they're like, I'm like, hey, I backpacked across Europe or whatever. But the best part about that question is all the small little sparks of memories that you get to go down like in the back of your head when you start to try to answer that question. And it's really cool to watch people's face and like if they haven't had to like really concentrate on a question through the entirety of a session, like that is the question I've seen everybody really think through. Like they stop and they're like, oh man, like, and then it just, the wheels like really start to turn, like all the wheels, right? Like, because you start to do that. And it doesn't matter, even if you live in the same town, like you've traveled at some point more than likely, or you've spent the night at some friend's house, or you went to college potentially. And then even at college, like you go different places. And so it's really cool because you're like, I was in this bed. Oh, I remember we went and did that with blah, 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 blah. And like, okay, the next bed. Oh yeah. And I remember like all the cool memories. So it's a great memory trigger to like start going
I've
through.
definitely rested my head at a lot of different places. Geez, that question's like asking how many tattoos I have. It's always like, I don't know, a lot.
Infinite.
A lot. Too many to put a number on. Yeah. Crazy.
That's awesome. Well, listen, I want to say thank y'all very much for coming on People Add Value Experience. I hope people that like and subscribe, I try to do it in the beginning, I always forget. Follow all of that fun stuff. But we'll be on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcast as of right now. There will be other venues at some point, or platforms, if you will. But I really, really appreciate y'all's time and coming to do this.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
This was fun.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, well, till next time.
All right.
All right.